And I'm fascinated about this idea. I'm fascinated by how in a world where technology is remarkable, the things that we can dream up and the things that we can do, yet we still come together as groups to do things as people. I was also struck by something that Neil Armstrong said, that he was grateful to be led by people who inspired him to yearn for that place, to yearn. Listen to that. That's such a wonderful feeling. And so it begs the question, sort of, what does it mean to lead? You know, why do people do what they do? I'm fascinated by this idea of leadership. And I read the same books as everyone else. I read the same books as all of you. And, you know, learn your style of leadership and how to adjust your style of leadership to fit to the situation at hand, et cetera, et cetera. That's not leadership. That's management. All leaders have one thing and one thing only. Followers. That's it. That's it. If you're a leader, it means you have followers. It has nothing to do with rank. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has nothing to do with seniority. If people are willing to follow you, you are a leader. The question is, what's a follower? A follower is somebody who volunteers to go where you want to go. Someone who raises their hand and says, I choose to follow you. We can get people to do all kinds of things using authority. That doesn't make you a leader. A leader is when someone says, I volunteer to go where you're going. The question is, why should anyone follow you? There's only two ways to influence human behavior. You can either manipulate people or you can inspire people. Examples of manipulation in the business world are things like dropping your price. If you drop your price low enough, people will buy from you. We know this. Promotions, 2 for 1, free toy inside. Or if you're in the business-to-business space, we call it value added. The concept is the same. It's giving things away for free to reduce someone's risk so they'll choose you over the competition. And it works. Innovation. What organizations like to call innovation is really novelty. Innovation, real innovation, changes the course of industries, if not the way we live our lives. Adding a camera to your cell phone is a wonderful feature, but it is not an innovation. It's the difference between steps and leaps. The problem is what most organizations think is innovation is really novelty. It's the latest shiny thing. The example I love to give is an American example about Colgate toothpaste, the brand of toothpaste. In the 1970s, there were only 2 choices of Colgate toothpaste. Do you know how many there are now? 27. 27 different choices of one brand of toothpaste. Because what happened was competition increased and the metric went down. Whether it's revenues or market share, profit, doesn't matter. The metric went down. And so they added a new product. And the population went, ooh, shiny. And we were all drawn to it. The problem is the competition copied. This is one of the problems with competition, you see. They compete. And then the metric went down again. Well, it worked the first time, so we'll do it again. And they added another product, and another product, and another product, and another product. And before you know it, you have 27 different line extensions, which means that their competition is offering about the same number of products at about the same price, about the same quality, about the same service. Literally hundreds of choices of toothpaste to choose from. And yet I have no data to show that people are brushing their teeth now more than they were before. And the best part is, what do these companies complain about now? What's their biggest challenge? How do we differentiate ourselves? This is hilarious to me, which is how do we get out of a problem that we created for ourselves? There are all kinds of other manipulations. Fear, wonderful manipulator. If any of you are parents, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can scare people into doing all sorts of things. Aspirational messages. We're constantly being told you have to be aspirational. Give people something to aspire to. You know, you can get people to join the gym with an aspirational message, but to get them to work out 3 days a week, that requires a little bit of inspiration. Now, I cannot dispute that these and many other manipulations work. The problem is, none of them breed loyalty. The problem is, none of them create trust. And over the course of time, they cost more money. Someone has to pay for it all. And over the course of time, it increases stress, both for the buyer and for the seller. It is stressful for us to make decisions today. In a world in which manipulation is the norm, where we are bombarded by manipulations from all sides, from all people, trying to get us to do any number of things, whether it's vote for them or buy from them or do something, the question is, how do we choose? What's right for us? It's called stress. We literally have trouble choosing these days. But it's stressful for the sellers as well. In a marketplace where manipulation is the norm, how do we stand out? How do we get heard? How do we find people to follow us? The alternative is inspiration. And there are only a few people and a few organizations that tend to rely vastly more on inspiration than manipulation. And I'll talk about some of the bigger ones, like Apple Computers, or Southwest Airlines, or Martin Luther King. And you see it not only in organizations, but great leaders as well, like Martin Luther King, or John F. Kennedy, or Nelson Mandela. And what I learned is that regardless of their size and regardless of their industry, every single one of these leaders, every single one of these organizations thinks, acts, and communicates the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was write it down. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle, and it's 3 concentric circles, a bullseye. In the middle is why, the center ring is how, and the outside ring is what. Why, how, what? It's this little idea that distinguishes those with the capacity to inspire versus everyone else. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single organization on the planet knows what they do. These are the products you sell, the services you offer. Everyone here knows what they do. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition, your USP, your proprietary process. These are the things that you think make you different or special or stand out from the competition, from everyone else. But very, very few people and very few organizations can clearly articulate why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make money, that's a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief. Why does your organization exist? Do we really need another company to do what you're doing? Do we really need another one? Why did you get out of bed this morning? And why should anyone care? As a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. We tell people what we do. We tell them how we're different or how we're better or how we're special. And we expect some sort of behavior, a vote, a purchase, support, whatever it is. But not those leaders with the capacity to inspire. Regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, every single one of them thinks, acts, and communicates from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple frequently just because they're easy to understand and we all get it. If Apple were like everyone else, a piece of communication would sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. That's normal. Here's our new car. It's got, great gas mileage, leather seats, tinted windows. Here's our law firm. We went to all the best schools. We've got all the best lawyers. We win all of our cases. We work with all of the biggest firms. This is normal. Here's how Apple actually communicates. They start with why. Everything we do, they say, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? It actually feels different. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it starts to show us is that it's not what you do that matters, it's why you do it. And what you do simply serves as the tangible proof of what you believe. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is the reason why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable with the idea that Apple sells computers. We're also perfectly comfortable with the idea that Apple sells MP3 players and phones and DVRs. Apple is just a company, that's all they are. It's a corporate structure. Every single one of their competitors has equal and open access to the same resources, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same talent, the same media. It is a zero-sum game. The difference is, all of their competitors have defined themselves by what they do. We make computers. Apple has defined themselves by why they exist. To challenge the status quo. To give an individual the opportunity to stand up to Big Brother and choose a simple alternative. Everything they say and everything they do simply serves as proof. Dell makes perfectly good products. They're every little bit qualified to make every single product that Apple makes. And a few years ago, they tried. A few years ago, Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs, and nobody bought one. Doesn't make sense. Why would we buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day, because it's not what you do that matters, it's why you do it. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. For this little idea to work, we have to have three things. One, you have to know why you do what you do. If you don't know why you do what you do, how will anyone else? You have to have clarity of why. Two, you have to have discipline of how. You have to hold yourself and your people accountable to your own guiding principles and your own values. And thirdly, you have to have consistency of what? Everything you say and everything you do has to prove what you believe. This is the concept behind authenticity. People are always telling us you have to be authentic. People prefer to buy from the authentic brand. They prefer to vote for the authentic candidate. What does that mean? How do you implement authenticity? If I send you home to your work tomorrow and say, please, the next thing you do, I want to make sure it's more authentic. What's the first thing you're going to do? No clue. What authenticity means is the things you say and the things you do, you actually believe. This is caveman stuff. The reason the human race is so successful is not because we're the strongest. It's not even because we're the smartest. It's because we're social animals. It's because we have the ability to form communities and cultures. What's a community? What's a culture? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. What's a country? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. What's a company? It should be a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. When we're surrounded by people who believe what we believe, something remarkable happens. Trust emerges. Make no mistake of it, trust is a feeling. Trust is a human experience. Simply doing everything you say you're going to do does not mean people will trust you. It just means you're reliable. And we all have friends who are total screw-ups, and yet we still trust them. Trust is a feeling born out of a common set of values and beliefs, and our very survival depends on our ability to find those people so that we can form trust. When we trust them and they trust us, we're more willing, we're more likely to take risks, to explore, to experiment, which requires failure, by the way, all with the confidence that if we turn our backs or fall over or make a mistake, that someone from within our community will come to our aid or watch our back or help us up. Absent trust, we still have the will to survive. The difference is, it's every man for himself. Absent trust, we all try and push each other out of the way because we got to win, we got to compete, we got to live, we got to survive. This is what happened at Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers was very, very good at what they did. Very, very good at how they did it. But there was no sense of purpose or cause or why that bonded the company together. And at the slightest shake, the whole thing collapsed. Not in months, not in weeks, in days. That company collapsed in days. And that's because when stress started to show up, all the individuals said, I'm out of here. Got to look after numero uno. Got mouths to feed, got bills to pay. They're not the first organization to go through hard times. They're not the first organization to suffer financial scandal. The difference is in great organizations, in great cultures, and in great communities, when there is stress, the organization comes together to solve the problem. Absent trust, we back off and the thing collapses. The most basic human desire on the planet is to feel like we belong. Again, we are social animals, and we all have the innate ability to do this. If I ask you to go out in the street and find all the people who believe what you believe, you know exactly what to do. You're going to strike up a conversation with someone. You'll either have good chemistry with them or you won't. You'll either get along with them quickly or it'll take some time. The point is, you know how to do it. Our survival depends on it. It's called dating. It's called making friends. It's called networking. We know how to do it. The problem is, it's not scalable. But if you know the symbols to look for, it becomes much easier. If I ask you to go out on the street and find all the people wearing red hats, it's easy. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. They're easy to spot because you know what to look for. This is what we do when we look for certain symbols and we read things about each other. Every single decision we make in our lives, as individuals or as organizations, is a piece of communication. It's our way of saying something about who we are and what we believe in an attempt to attract people so that they may form trust with us and we may form trust with them. There are people who walk around with Harley-Davidson logos on their body, right? On tattoos. This is a corporate logo. Some of them don't even own the product. But it has nothing to do with the company. It has to do with them. Because Harley is so clear about what they believe, because they're so disciplined in how they do it, and they're so consistent in what they do, it gets to the point that everything they say and everything they do now serves as a symbol of the person, of who they are, of who they believe they are. And the reason we want to put those symbols out is so that we may attract people who believe what we believe. You can lie. You could tell people what we think they want to hear, and they'll still be attracted to you, except they'll be attracted to the lie. And then when they realize that it's not true, you'll have a hard time forming trust. This is what Tiger Woods did to us. He lied to us. He told us what he thought we wanted to hear, and we thought it was great. The difference is we found out it was a lie. And now he's having a very hard time forming trust again. If I told you that some footballer cheated on his wife and slept with 100 women, would you care? No. It's because we expect it. It's because it's authentic. It's because it's who they are. But not with Tigers. He chose to lie to us. It's not actually the behavior that we're offended by. It's that it's inconsistent with what our expectations are. Everything you say and everything you do has to prove what you believe. Like I said, the most basic human desire is to feel like we belong, and it's so remarkably powerful. How many of you are from Paris? Most of you, right? Yeah, a good number of you. Okay. Are you friends with everyone in Paris? Why not? Why not? But when you go to Lyon and you meet someone from Paris, you're like, hey, I'm from Paris, and you're best friends. And when you go to America and you're on holiday, and you're standing there in New York and you're riding the subway and you happen to hear French being spoken behind you, and you turn around and you say, where are you from? They say, Lyon. We say, we're from Paris, and you're best friends. Because when you're in an environment where you don't feel like you belong, you seek out anyone who may share the same values and beliefs as you so that you can start to form trusting relationships. And the amazing thing is, those relationships are real. Those relationships are real. That other family will say to you, have you eaten at this restaurant? You've got to go to this restaurant. And you will take your family to this restaurant because complete strangers on the subway told you to. That's insane. If that happened here, if somebody on the metro just turned to you and told you to go to some restaurant, you'd go like this. The most basic human desire on the planet is to feel like we belong. And we have the innate ability to find those things and to sense that. This is the reason why this could not be recreated over our computers. It's because as human beings, it's our biology that gives us this ability. It's this ability to read each other. You know, the blogosphere gets very upset at me when I talk about this and how, you cannot replace these human experiences and these human feelings over the internet. They get very mad at me. And yet, every single year, 20,000 bloggers descend on Las Vegas to have a huge big conference they call Blogsphere, Blog World. My question is, why couldn't they do it online? It's because nothing can recreate that sense of human being, of human coming together. Nothing I'm telling you is my opinion. It's actually grounded in the tenets of biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, you see that the human brain evolved into 3 major areas that corresponds precisely with this little idea. The outside area is our neocortex, our Homo sapien brain, responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle 2 sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. This is the reason you can't ask people, why do you do business with us? Why do you like us? They can't tell you. The part of the brain that controls behavior doesn't control language, and so they rationalize. This is the reason why the question, why do you love your husband or why do you love your wife, is a difficult question. Why do you love your wife? I don't know. That's where most people start. And then they start saying things, they start rationalizing. She's fun, I've known her forever, she's always there for me when I need her. It sounds like the household pet. And those aren't necessarily the qualities for marriage. My sister says of my brother-in-law, I never imagined I'd marry a guy like him. Right? What she's saying is, before I got married, I had a list of all the attributes I wanted in my future husband. And he's got none of them. And yet I fell in love with him anyway. I want to spend the rest of my life with him and raise a family with him. It is a human experience that we have trouble putting into words. And so we try. We rationalize and then we say things that don't make sense. She completes me. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? It means I have a left arm and a left leg, and I'm looking for someone with a right arm and a right leg, and together we can make one. I mean, it's nonsense. What we're attempting to do is put into words the feelings we have towards another person or organization with the part of the brain that doesn't control language. And so we rationalize or make things up. We do the exact same thing at work. We talk about people who get it. And that guy, no matter how much data I show him, no matter how much information I give him, he just doesn't get it. What's it? How do we find people who get it before we do business with them to realize they don't get it? What we're attempting to do is put into words the feelings we have towards other people, this common set of values and beliefs, with the part of the brain that doesn't control language. This sense of belonging and the sense of community is so powerful. The example I love to give, and it freaks me out every time I talk about it. What's our most valuable possession on the planet? Come on, what's our most valuable possession on the planet? Our children, very good. So let's suppose you want to go out with your wife or with your husband, and you need a babysitter. You have two options. Option number one is a 16-year-old from just down the street with barely, if any, babysitting experience. Option number two is a 32-year-old from you don't know from where. She just moved into the neighborhood, and she's got 10 years of babysitting experience. Who do you choose? The 16-year-old. You choose the 16-year-old. You would rather trust your most valuable possession on the planet, your children, with somebody from within your community with no experience over somebody from outside, from you don't know where, with vast amounts of experience. Then why do we do it differently at work? Why are we so preoccupied with someone's CV and where they've worked and how long they've worked and how much money they made for our competitors, and yet we never think to ask what they believe, what they value? Can we trust you? Can you trust us? Leadership is the ability to stand on the street corner with your own red hat and simply talk about what you believe. Got a red hat? Got a red hat? Got a red hat here. And all the other people wearing red hats, whether they know their own why or not, whether they can see their own red hat or not, are eerily drawn to you. Because what you're able to do is put into words the way they see themselves. What you're able to do is put into words the values and beliefs that they hold dear, and they're drawn to you because they feel that they can trust you and they can start to form community around you. This is what leadership is. Leadership puts our own desires and our own values and our own beliefs into words. There's an inextricable link between leadership and communication. Those who lead are the ones who can clearly talk about what they believe, and those who can clearly talk about what they believe are the ones who lead. Let's imagine that we're out on a tour, a 3-hour tour on a boat, and we get stranded on a desert island. Here we are, all stranded on the desert island. The question is, how will we get off the island? Well, one of us stands up and says, I will lead. We like that. We're social animals. We appreciate leadership. And he stands up and says, okay, who's got ideas? You think we should build a fire? I like it. Good. You think we should look for food? Good, good, good. You think we should build a boat? Good. I like it. Okay, let's take a vote. At the same time, someone else stands up and says, as we were coming into the beach, I saw some masts over on the west side of the island, and I saw some smoke, which means there's a fishing village over there. And if we can get to that fishing village, we can find help. Now, we're going to have to get through this forest to get there, and I don't know how to get through the forest, so I'm going to need some help. But if you want to help, I'll welcome it, and if you don't want to help, don't worry. When we get help, we'll come back and get you. The question I have for you is, who do you want to follow? Who do you want to follow? We want to follow the second guy. There's no data to show that that fishing village exists. There's no photographs, and no one else saw it. The only thing we have is his conviction, his absolute belief in the existence of that world that we cannot see. And his ability to put that future state into words that we're drawn to. And we will volunteer to go with him, maybe even take personal risk. I don't know how to get through the forest. I don't know how to cut down trees, but I will go because I believe it's important. Not for me, but for the greater group. The irony is our own survival depends on our ability to help each other. This is the irony. And here we go. We rally together. We choose to take the risk. We choose to follow, we volunteer to follow him, and we go through these woods. And it's hard. And we have to cross rivers and go around boulders and chop down trees. And eventually we come to where he said the fishing village is. And there's no fishing village. Did he lie to us? Were we just conned? Was this all a big joke? Is this all for naught? And we say to him, where is the fishing village? You said there was a fishing village. You said if we could get here, we would survive. And he turns to us and says, I believe there was a fishing village, but that doesn't matter because look what we were able to do. We were able to get through that forest together. That means that we can pick absolutely any direction on this island and we will be able to get there. That's called leadership. When people believe what you believe, they will work for you with blood and sweat and tears. When they don't believe what you believe, they work for your money. The goal is not to surround yourself with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to surround yourself with people who believe what you believe. There are a million reasons why people will do business with you that have nothing to do with you. You happen to meet some checklist that they have. They happen to hate your competition more. There's a difference between repeat business and loyalty, you see. Repeat business means I'll do business with you over and over and over again. Loyalty means I'm willing to turn down a better product at a better price to continue to do business with you. And it's the loyal ones, those who feel like they belong, those who doing business with you gives them some sense of identity or belonging. Those are the ones. Those are the ones who do great. And the reason is because it becomes personal. It becomes personal. We use these symbols, we use these companies, we use these leaders, we use these organizations as tangible ways of saying something about who we are. This is why people with Macintosh computers love opening their computers in airports. They love for us to see the computer they're using. How many of you love your Macintosh computer or know someone who loves their Macintosh computer? Okay. Rationally speaking, based on facts and figures, data, right? Factually speaking, Macs are substandard computers. They're at least 25% more expensive, sometimes double the price of their PC counterparts. There's less software, there's fewer peripherals, and I know because I switched to a Mac, they're absolutely slower. Rationally speaking, no one should ever buy one. But they do, over and over and over again. And when they decide they're going to buy one, they don't do any competitive comparisons. They're not comparing the price and the data and the features from one product to another. They simply decide, that's the one I want, and they go and choose it. And if you ask somebody who loves their Mac, why do you love your Mac? They don't tell you. Well, you see, I see myself as somebody who likes to challenge the status quo. And so it's very important for me to surround myself with all the people and the products and the brands to prove to the outside world who I am. Because I'm using these things as symbols to tell people about who I am in an attempt to attract people who believe what I believe so that I can start to form strong bonds of trust because my own survival depends on it. Biologically, that's what happened in the part of the brain that controls behavior but not language. And so they rationalize. It's the user interface. It's the simplicity. It's the design. And they say things that don't make sense. I'm a creative person, whatever that means. At the end of the day, what they're doing is they're using this symbol to say something about who they are, which is why people with Macs will never put big stickers of their families over the tops of their computers. It'll never happen. Cover up that beautiful glowing apple? Never. Never. And have you ever seen a dirty Macintosh? That's because they clean them. How many of you have broken out the glass cleaner simply to clean your HP? It doesn't happen. Never. The people with Macs will sit there and clean their computers, right? Because we have to keep it clean, because it is a symbol of who I am. And when you tell them, you know that you bought a substandard computer, they start foaming at the mouth, and they start getting angry, and they'll probably call you an idiot. And the reason they take it so personally is because you didn't insult their computer, you insulted them. Because Apple is so clear about what they believe, so disciplined in how they do it, and so consistent in what they do, that symbol now serves as a representation of who I believe I am. And if I surround myself with enough of these symbols, if I'm consistent enough, you'll know something about me. It's the same thing as a flag. What's a flag? A flag is just a logo. A flag is just a symbol. Who cares about the flag? But we don't. We get angry when we see people burning our flag. Why do we get angry? Because you're attacking me. What do you mean I'm attacking you? I just burnt my own property. No, we get angry because it's a symbol of our values and beliefs, and when you attack the flag, it's the same as attacking me. Where do you think the mafia comes from? You killed my cousin, now I have to kill your whole family. You didn't do anything to me. It's because we're protective of those within our community. We're protective of those who believe what we believe. So much so that when you attack someone who believes what I believe, it's as if you're attacking us. It's as if you're attacking me. And at the same time, we will protect each other. This is what great organizations are. Great organizations are communities, cultures, common sets of values and beliefs where we will go to bat for each other and work for each other and help each other, even at great personal sacrifice. Because ironically, my own survival depends on it. What we need more of today is not talking just about the technology and what technology can do. That's all fine and good. But the question is, why does that technology exist in the first place? Why do you have the technology? What's the point of it? Why should I care? How are you helping me on a very, very human level? Innovation doesn't come from telling people to come up with a better technology. Innovation comes from solving problems that are deeply, deeply personal to me. We hail Apple as this great innovative organization, the most innovative organization in the world, blah, blah, blah. Where does it come from? Steve Jobs, by the way, do you know how many of the ideas that Apple currently sells, how many Steve Jobs came up with? 0. None of them. He didn't come up with Apple. Steve Wozniak came up with the Apple. He didn't come up with iTunes or the iPod or iPhone. It was all people within his organization. What Jobs was able to do was put into words why they were coming to work. What he was able to put into words was why the company exists. He gave people something to build. This is what they were looking for. Just as Neil Armstrong talked about, that yearning. Give people some sort of yearning and they will solve the problem. This is what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship isn't starting a business. Entrepreneurship is solving a problem. 35 years ago, when before Apple even existed, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were standing in a garage in Cupertino, California, and they made something they called the little blue box. It allowed people to avoid paying long-distance rates on their phone bills in a day and age when there was only one long-distance phone company. They were challenging Ma Bell, the existing status quo phone monopoly. And then they started Apple, and they challenged Big Blue, IBM, the existing status quo monopoly computer platform. And then they challenged Microsoft, and then they challenged the music industry, and then they challenged the phone industry. Now they're challenging publishing, and if you're in television or movies, you're next. It is just a repeating pattern. It is other people in the organization who came to work and looked for things that restricted human opportunity. They looked for things that held the individual down, and they used the technology as a way of giving people to challenge that, giving them an option. It's remarkable, and it's a repeating pattern. Even if you look at all of their advertising and all of their communications for the past decades, it's all exactly the same. That 1984 commercial, that wonderful Ridley Scott commercial, that woman runs into the Orwellian scene and throws the hammer through the screen. It's one individual challenging the status quo. And then you have, hi, I'm a Mac. Hi, I'm a PC, an individual. And you have one person standing there listening to their iPod. It's always an individual. It's always an individual. It's always I. And Jobs is constantly talking about the revolution this and the revolution that. It is a cause. Think different is a belief. It is not a product differentiator. What distinguishes one organization from another is not simply what you do, it's why you do it. And if people believe what you believe, they'll be drawn to you as if you were their own. The goal is not to surround yourself with people who need what you have. The goal is to surround yourself with people who believe what you believe. And the reason is because of something called the law of diffusion of innovations. If you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. What the law of diffusion tells us, standard deviation, bell curve, is that the first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, then your late majority, and the last 16% are your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all fit at various times at various reasons across this standard deviation. What the law of diffusion tells us is that this population, the innovator and the early adopter population, are very comfortable trusting their guts. They're very comfortable making intuitive decisions. Remember that biology? The part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language, but it does control feelings. This is where gut decisions come from. There is no part of your stomach that controls decision-making. And it's not in your blood, and it's not in your bones, and it's not in your soul, and you're not following your heart. Let's win hearts and minds. It's winning minds and minds. This is the reason why we talk about decisions feeling right. We say just feels right. Why would we use the verb to feel to describe a decision? It's because the part of the brain that controls feelings controls decision-making. That's why. It just doesn't control language. And so we ascribe it to different parts of the body. These people are very comfortable trusting their guts and making those intuitive decisions. This population, the majority, is more cynical, more practical. They absolutely care about things like price and quality and service and features. The problem is that they will not try something until someone else has tried it first. These are the people we have to drop our price, offer value added, come up with all the promotions, because we have to reduce their risk to try something unfamiliar. These people happily try new things that have never been tried before, simply to reflect something what they believe. The problem is that you cannot achieve mass market success or mass market acceptance for an idea until you achieve between 15 and 18% market penetration. This is the tipping point. It's a social phenomenon. The problem is that it's hard to get there. And when I talk about 15 to 18%, I don't mean of the mass population. I mean 15 to 18% of people who believe what you believe. It's easy to get 10%. If you ignore everything I'm telling you today, I promise you can get about 10% loyalty. You have about 10% of your customers who love you. Not like you. Like is rational. Love you. It's emotional. You ask somebody, do you like your job? I really like my job. I get paid well. I like the people I work with. I like the challenge. Do you love your job? Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Like, we know there's a hierarchy. Like is rational, love is emotional, right? It's easy to get about 10%. The law of averages will say you have about 10%. But it's hard to get this tipping point. This is what Geoffrey Moore in his book, Crossing the Chasm, talks about. This is the chasm. So the question is, how do you get those people? And this is where leadership matters. This is when you talk about what you believe. I'll give you two examples. I'll give you a business example and a social example. In the United States, we have a brand called TiVo, which is a brand of DVR. TiVo basically invented the category and has been around for about 11 or 12 years. Now, when you ask any company, why did your company fail or why did your product fail, they will usually give you some combination of 4 reasons. They'll either tell you that it was undercapitalized, didn't have enough money, that's very popular. Poorly executed, that's a common one, we didn't have a good product. We had bad people, had the wrong people, or bad market conditions. That pretty much explains absolutely every failure there is. TiVo had the recipe for success. They had everything that we consider what we need for success. When their product was introduced about 11 years ago, to this current day, it is the single highest quality product on the market. No one will dispute that. It's an incredibly fantastic product. So execution flawless. People, they hired the best engineers money could buy. Market conditions. The unaided awareness of TiVo is through the roof. We use it like a verb. I TiVo things. And they had venture capital up the wazoo. So money, no problem. Money was no problem. TiVo is a commercial and financial failure. They've never made money. And when their company went public, the stock launched at about $40 or $50 and then very quickly plummeted, and except for a couple of little blips, has never traded above $10. And the reason is because they took this brilliant product, this brilliant piece of technology, and they attempted to tell the mass market what the product does. They attempted to convince with facts and figures what the product does. They said to the mass market, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, and records on your behalf without you even asking. And the cynical, practical majority said, I don't need it. I don't like it. I don't want it. You're scaring me. And so they didn't buy one. There were a few who did, a few early adopters who did, but it didn't make a difference. And the company has done very poorly. Imagine if they had told this population why the product exists. Imagine if they had said, if you're the kind of person who wants to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, it skips commercials, it memorizes your viewing habits and records on your behalf without you even asking. In this instant, what the product does serves as the tangible reasons to believe it. They're not the reasons you use to convince somebody to choose you over the competition in the first place. It's not what you do that matters, it's why you do it. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I'll give you my favorite example. It's a social example. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the mall in Washington, D.C. to hear Martin Luther King give his famous I Have a Dream speech. There were no invitations sent out, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? How many emails did you get to be here today? And there's only, a few hundred people? 250,000. Dr. King was not the only man in that country who knew what had to change to bring about civil rights over there. He wasn't the only great orator. He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, he wasn't even the perfect man. He had his complexities. We just don't talk about those things. The difference is he didn't go around telling people what we need to do, what we need to do, what we need to do. He went around and told people, I believe, I believe, I believe. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and made it their own. And they told people what they believed. And those people took that cause and made it their own. And they told people what they believed. And lo and behold, on the right day, on the right time, 250,000 people showed up to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America. It's the America that they wanted to live in. It was the country that they wanted to raise their children in, that inspired them to get on a bus, travel for 8 hours, and stand in the sun in Washington in August simply to hear him speak. Showing up was one of the things that they did to prove what they believed. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Nobody was inspired by any plan ever. The goal is not to talk about what you do. The goal is to talk about what you believe. And people who believe what you believe are drawn to you as if you are their own because you help them put into words the way they see themselves. And the things you say and the things you do give them the ability to tell others what they believe, to make tangible, because those symbols and those products and those services say something about who they are. And they will say with pride, I love working with that company. This is why we talk about in sales, it's about relationships. I love my guy, we always talk about when we have a good relationship with a company. Because it's a human experience. It's a human experience. Make no mistake of it, all of these things we're talking about, like trust and loyalty, are human experiences. Technology and the internet are wonderful things to speed up transactions. They are wonderful things to connect people, to spread information, absolutely. But it's very, very difficult to form strong human bonds through the internet, just like we talked about with Blog World. The internet can live alongside, and technology can live alongside the human experience, but it cannot replace the human experience. Your friends are not on Facebook, and your network isn't on LinkedIn, and you're not having any conversations on a blog, and you're not having a dialogue on Twitter. Those aren't human experiences. If you compare the way we actually have conversations where we interrupt each other and we advance ideas versus the way people communicate online, it's sort of my idea, my idea, my idea. Hey, that's a good idea, Steve. That agrees with my idea. My idea, my idea. Hey, you're an idiot. My idea, my idea. And if you ask any retailer on the planet who's ever come out with a blog for their customers to give feedback, the number of innovations that have come out of the feedback from those blogs, the answer is 0. None. Because people just use it to complain and moan. And there's no vulnerability and there's no risk in doing things online, which is the reason we put ourselves out there like that. Risk requires this. Vulnerability requires this. And when you feel that someone's willing to tell you something genuinely about who they are, you can start to form strong bonds of trust. There's something called a parasocial relationship. A real relationship is when we know a lot about each other and we start to learn about each other. A parasocial relationship is one person knows more about the other person than they know about you. And you start to form a strong bond, except it's one-sided. This is what happens with fame, with celebrities. We know all about them, but they don't know even that we exist. And we know about their lives, we know about their social lives, we know who they're dating, we know about their careers, and we follow them as if they're our friends. And we call them we're on first name basis with them, right? We call them by their first names as if we know them. It's a parasocial relationship where we feel that we know them, but they don't know us. The problem is all those feelings associated are absolutely real. They feel absolutely real. The opportunity for innovation is not to just tell people in the outside world, do this, do that. The opportunity is to bring people together so the feeling is mutual. So we work together to advance a problem. So we work together to get to that fishing village because our own survival depends on it. If people don't feel that you're in it as well with them, if they don't believe that you believe what they believe, then there's not going to be any strong human bond. The opportunity is to articulate your vision of the future that does not yet exist yet. What is your vision? What is your fishing village? And are you putting it into words so clearly that other people can understand it as clearly as you can and they can tell others about it? And they want to go there and they will risk blood and sweat and tears to help you get there. Not for you, but for themselves. And they will watch your back and help you explore, just like that 16-year-old that you hired to babysit your children, because they get you, they understand you, they know that you're the same, they know you believe what you believe. This is the goal. Human relationships, real trust, real loyalty that is not born out of products and services, but born out of beliefs and values. There are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or influence, but those who lead inspire us. And whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead not for them, but for ourselves. This is for those who want to find someone to inspire them. This is for those who want to inspire those around them.